The Book of Psalms, Psalm 76, for the chief musician, on stringed instruments, a song by Asaph, a song. In Judah God is known. His name is great in Israel. His tabernacle is also known in Salem, his dwelling place in Zion. There he broke the flaming arrows of the bow, the shield, and the sword, and the weapons of war. Glorious are you and excellent, more than mountains of game. Valiant men lie plundered. They have slept their last sleep. None of the men of war can lift their hands. At your rebuke, God of Jacob, both chariot and horse are cast into a deep sleep. You, even you, are to be feared. Who can stand in your sight when you are angry? You pronounced judgment from heaven. The earth feared and was silent. When God arose to judgment to save all the afflicted ones of the earth. Surely the wrath of man praises you. The survivors of your wrath are restrained. Make vows to Yahweh your God and fulfill them. Let all his neighbors bring presents to him who is to be feared. He will cut off the spirit of princes. He is feared by the kings of the earth. So Psalm 76. This is for stringed instruments. And again, this group of Psalms is by Asaph. I'd like to learn one day who is Asaph. But in verse 1, in Judah God is known. His name is great in Israel. So it kind of scratches your head. Yeah, it's great the Jewish people are back in Judah, in Israel, in Jerusalem. But they're also secular. God's name is not great there. People barely worship God there. It's so sad. It's maybe because God doesn't perform great works anymore. And they're constantly being threatened for being Jewish. It says in verse 2, his tabernacle is also in Salem, his dwelling place in Zion. There he broke the flaming arrows of the bow, the shield and the sword, and the weapons of war. So I guess he stopped a battle there or something. Something happened in Salem and in Zion. People were being attacked and he broke the arrows. Not sure. Glorious are you and excellent, more than mountains of game. So we'd say to have full bellies, a full cart full of groceries from the grocery store. Valiant men lie plundered. They have slept their last sleep. Excuse me. So brave, valiant men, they have slept their last sleep. So they've all died. They've probably died in battle. None of the men of war can lift their hands. So that's it. They did their best, maybe, but God is greater. At your rebuke, God of Jacob, both chariot and horse are cast into a deep sleep. So if we trust in God, he will, help with our efforts in war, but, he will ultimately be successful. And he doesn't have to do anything. He just rebukes them and they're cast into sleep. They're defeated. So in verse 7, you, even you, are to be feared. Who can stand in your sight when you're angry? We've lost that. We've lost the awesomeness of God. If God is angry, who can stop him? None of us can stop him. You pronounced judgment. The earth feared. When God arose to judgment to save all the afflicted ones of the earth. So he's going to judge the people who afflict, The poor and the needy and the ones who need our help. Hmm. Surely the wrath of man praises you. The survivors of your wrath are restrained. I'm not sure what that means. You know, maybe their wrath, their anger turns to praise. It's like when you're downtrodden and you don't see God and you start shaking your fist, where's God? They will ultimately praise him. Is I think what that means. Make vows to Yahweh and fulfill them. This is really a lot in the Old Testament, this idea of making vows. And I'm not even sure what it means. Make a vow. Like I vow to not lust after women or after men, if you're maybe a woman, you know, I vow to give a certain amount of money, or I vow to not do this or to do that. Interesting. Hmm. He will cut off the spirit of princes. He is feared by the kings of the earth. So we're really afraid of leaders, who do have great power, but in the end, God's going to cut them off. The leaders of the earth will fear Yahweh in the end. Sometimes it's hard to see, and I see the anger that comes up when people, you know, when evil people seems to be winning. But in the end, God will win. Psalm 76.